Do you think you might be too old to start selling on Amazon? Perhaps you think you're too young. Does your family think that selling online would not be a good career choice? Maybe you have a well-paying corporate job, but you feel unfulfilled in life. Today, we're going to talk to a wide variety of people who at one point in time might be in the exact situation that you are in now. My name is Shivali Patel, and I'm a brand evangelist here at Helium 10. Last year around this time, we did a video that we called the Average Joe webinar, where we interviewed average Joes and average Sallys to talk about their journey to finding success on Amazon. This turned out to be one of our most popular webinars, and we received so many messages from people stating how refreshing it was to see and hear stories of regular people achieve success on Amazon. These are people who are not internet gurus, they don't have software to sell you, nor courses. Many of them you might not even have heard of because they come from different educational, cultural, and age backgrounds. Yet the one thing that they have in common is that they made the decision to use Amazon to help them find their financial goals, to help them reach their financial goals. This year, we're going to interview more average Joes and average Sallys in the hopes that we can again inspire you to take action like they have. With 2022 upon us, many are wanting to make new year, new you moves in their lives. So should selling on Amazon be one of those possible moves for you? Let's hear some stories from a few who have been in your shoes just a short time ago. Our director of training here at Helium 10, Bradley Sutton, has conducted some interviews that hopefully will get you motivated for 2022. Let's begin by addressing the A-word excuse: age. Some people think they're too old to learn how to sell on Amazon, while others think that they're too young. If that is you, these first two guests will hopefully change your mind.
Thanks, Shivali. It's very true. One of the, big excuses I hear out there sometimes is the age thing. All right. It goes both ways as well. There's people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. They think, I'm too old now to get started on Amazon. I can't do this. I can't teach an old dog new tricks. On the flip side, there's young people like, hey, I need to graduate college before I can think about e-commerce. I need to graduate high school before I can get into e-commerce. So what I've done is I've brought a couple of individuals that we've had on the podcast before. They're not average, but I call them average Joes because their origin stories are definitely average, as far as I'm sure a lot of you out there might be in a similar situation. Now, they're at the opposite end of the age spectrum. They're opposite ends of the world. Their connection to Amazon is completely different. The culture is different. However, they kind of are in the same situation now, as they're well embedded into the e-commerce world. So our first guest here is probably maybe one of the more familiar faces that we're going to have on today's video, because Paul has been on the podcast a couple of times. I've known him for a number of years now. Paul, it's great to have you back.
Hey, Bradley, great to be with you again.
All right, now, Paul, you're known for a number of different things, especially your prowess in licensing and bringing your Cozy Phone brand to Nickelodeon and things like that. But I want to go back in time, all right, before you even got into the Amazon world. I want to get into your backstory a little bit. If I'm not mistaken, you're in the military for a number of years, and then you got into the restaurant franchise business. Can you talk about that journey before you got into e-commerce, your origin story?
Sure, Bradley. Well, I know that I'm going to definitely date myself, but that's kind of the purpose of the show today. And to be honest, I'm not sure whether I should be insulted or grateful to be in the old guy category.
Now, hold on, Paul. Don't be putting words in my mouth here. I did not say you were an old guy.
I know that I'm on the old of the spectrum. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, Bradley, I was probably started out my career graduating high school, maybe before you were born in 81.
Yeah, I was already around in 81, just a little bit out of diapers.
So you were around. So I went straight out of high school into the Marine Corps, where I spent 11 years in the Marine Corps. And honestly, I had this entrepreneurial drive the whole time I was in. I was always reading books on real estate and other business opportunities. The whole time I was in, I couldn't wait to get out and start chomping at the bit to become an entrepreneur. When I first got out, I started working for a small entrepreneurial firm for a while, and then eventually opened my own video production company. where we were doing like military training videos and things like that. Eventually, I sold that company and decided that I want to try my hand in franchising instead of trying to build it from scratch. So I got into a pizza franchise called Cece's Pizza. I ran that for about 12 years. I had 3 stores in 3 different states that I operated. And around 2015, that business was struggling for a variety of factors. And I was looking for a new opportunity. And that's when I discovered Amazon.
That's a pretty long journey before you even got to Amazon. What about you guys out there? Did you go from one thing to the other, over a span of 20 to 30 years like Paul did? You that might have got you thinking, hey, I don't think I can get into e-commerce. I've been doing something for a long time. Anyways, Paul, we're going to get back to you in a little bit. We're going to go to the other end of the spectrum right now, as far as the age factor goes, on the other side of the world in Pakistan. And we're going to invite our next guest, Salman, up. He's so young, I'm not even sure his parents were alive in 1981 when Paul graduated high school. Salman, how old are you now?
I'm 17 now.
Okay, so 17 years old now. What about when you got into e-commerce? How old were you then?
I was 15 years old.
All right, now at the time you got started, I'm pretty sure that, like even if you wanted to, you couldn't sell on Amazon USA registering from Pakistan. It wasn't on the approved country list. It actually is now. Plus, it takes a lot of money to get started. So, what was the path that you took?
So the route I took was became a service provider. I became an Amazon VA before I could, invest my own money and risk it because being in Pakistan, we have to invest a lot of money into PL because Amazon is not in our state. We have to do FBA at all costs. So it was really very expensive ordering a huge amount of units from China, and the shipping rates, the product rates, they were really, really high. So we needed an investment of around $20,000 to $25,000, which I did not have at that time. So I became a VA instead, and I still am a VA, and I have my own Kindle launches on Amazon as well, but no product launches still.
So, here in the United States, like 15, 16 years old, if you're working, you're, maybe working at McDonald's or fast food or mowing lawns or things like that, probably making minimum wage. But in Pakistan, if you're 15, 16 years old and you're working, what's the typical job that you might be doing?
Someone my age does not work in Pakistan because the mindset over here is nowhere close to what it is in the USA. People over here think that our kids do not need to work until they are 25 or 20 or 28 or something, because over here there's only one provider for the family, and that is their fathers. Only they provide for their families. Even if they have 10 kids, even if they have 5 kids, they are the only one who provide for their families. That is the mindset over here. And it is still the mindset over here of people that they do not need to work until they're 25 or 28 or 30.
Wow. Okay. So not only did you have an age barrier, but you also had a cultural barrier, since it's, I didn't realize that in your country, usually the teenagers don't work in the family. It's actually the father or the husband is the principal breadwinner. Now we're going to get back to you in a little bit. Let's go back to Paul now for a couple seconds here. Now, Paul, without completely aging yourself, were you in your 40s or 50s when you made that switch from that restaurant world to Amazon?
So that was 2015 is when I started selling my first products on Amazon, and I would have been 54 at that time.
All right. Now, how did it feel, Paul? So long in the military, getting used to that, and then so long in the restaurant business, over a decade, going from managing Cece's Pizza to completely flipping the switch and going into e-commerce. I imagine that was kind of a scary transition.
Yeah, well, I had in the Cece's Pizza era, which was about 11 years, I had a total of 70 employees and about 10 different managers. And it was a wonderful time while it lasted, but the concept kind of suffered over time. And looking at Amazon was really a plan B for me. Hey, what am I going to do if this doesn't work out? And so it was really exciting. I'm a geek at heart. I was building my own computers in the mid 80s and, watched the birth of the internet. And so, man, putting together ways to make money and the internet together was fascinating for me.
I love it. Absolutely love it. All right, let's go ahead and switch back to Salman for a little bit now. Now, Salman, I remember your story about how you got started in e-commerce. Now, you were going through a tough time in your life. You're depressed, and your dad was getting upset that you were only watching Netflix right in your room and staying in your room all day. He told you to do something different. So you found a certain YouTube video, right?
So I found this YouTube channel where its title was "How I Make Money, How I Make a 100K Online." So I watched that video. It was about content writing. So it really motivated me. I thought that my English is good. I can write essays or articles or stories or books. So I entered into e-commerce via content writing. I wrote enormous articles. I wrote tons of articles for international forum. Its name was the Sun magazine. So I wrote around 2,000 articles for them in 2 months, and they did not accept a single one of them until they accepted one article, and the first payment of my entire life when I was 15 years old was 1,600 US dollars. So that was the point where I got even more motivated. And before entering into e-com, I was making around 500 to $600 every month. And when I came into e-commerce via enablers, I did their VA course, and the Amazon journey started from Feb 2020. I was learning Amazon by myself. Then I started the course in June 2020, and I got my first client in July 2020, even before my course ended.
All right. So for your agency, that you went ahead and started, what are some of the services that you guys offer?
We're offering 20 services like PL, wholesale, Kindle, Etsy, Walmart, eBay, and US company formations, LTD formations, and website development, software development, financial consultations, etc. So now my team is, I have 22 employees and working under me, and our revenue is about to cross 1.2 million within one financial year.
Wow, that's a lot of employees. Now, that 1 million, that's Pakistani rupees. About how much is that per month in US dollars?
That is around $6,900.
All right. So now you said, people your age don't usually work. So what about just the typical worker at all, like an adult, like in maybe a lower end office job? Like how much would they be making per month in Pakistan?
If you talk about beginner level jobs, they are like even lesser than $250. And even if you talk about high level jobs like a manager or someone or a general manager, he is making around 500 to $600, or you could say $1,000 if he is in a very big or international firm.
Wow. So that's like 5, 10 times as much your agency is generating in revenue than the typical adult office worker in your country. That is impressive. So speaking of revenue, let's go ahead and switch back to Paul. So, fast forward all of what you had been talking about. Now you started selling on Amazon, middle of or around 2015 or so. What are you up to in what you've grossed as far as revenue goes? Are we talking 7 figures? Are we talking 8 figures? Roughly how much?
I think we're getting close to 20 million on Amazon now since I first started in 2015.
Wow, 20 million. So think it's maybe safe to say that you do not regret making that decision to switch to e-commerce from the restaurant business, huh?
No, it was phenomenal, man. And, I remember going to SellerCon. I think you and I spent some time in SellerCon in Orlando. And after my talk down there, I had several old guys come up to me and say, Paul, we really appreciate, your perspective on this, because they were in my same shoes. And it's pretty scary to think about starting a whole new thing or starting over at 50 years old. And they were inspired, and I was happy to inspire them.
All right, I love it. I love it. Now, like you said, you've talked to other people who are in your shoes. They're at SellerCon. Now, what about somebody who might be watching this right now, who might have been in your shoes? Maybe they're in their 40s, maybe they're in their 50s, maybe they're in their 60s. They've been doing something else for a while. What would you tell them if maybe they're feeling a little bit hesitant to like think because of my age, I don't know if I could do e-commerce? What would be your message to them?
You know what, Bradley, the other day, not the other day, but a couple of weeks ago, I was at AMZ Innovate in New York, and I was inspired by the couple sitting in front of me, looked like they were in their 70s. I thought, wow, when did these guys get started? So, you set your own limitations, right? And it's a matter of what you can learn, really. It's all about learning. And not to, inhibit yourself by saying, well, I've got these habits or those habits. You can learn. If you can learn, you can earn.
All right, Paul. Thank you so much again for your words of wisdom here. You're always a very inspiring story. About your journey to e-commerce, and you show that really anything's possible regardless of your age. So we're definitely going to be following you as you continue on your journey. And thanks for coming on here.
Thank you, Bradley. Appreciate the opportunity.
All right, so let's switch back to Salman now. Salman, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Paul. So maybe there's families out there who have teenage kids or young adults, and they're kind of hesitant to get started selling on Amazon, or they think that maybe they're too young to get started in e-commerce. What would be your message to those young people out there who might have been in your situation that you were a couple of years ago?
Basically, what I think is there is no age barrier. You can do whatever you want, even if you are very young or if you're very old. I've seen success stories of 60-year-old, 65-year-old, even the kid you met before a little time ago. He was publishing books on Kindle. He was 7 years old. So I don't think there is an age barrier at all. It's all about the mindset. We need to change our mindset. Our parents need to change their mindset, because what their mindset is our kids do not need to work at all, because we are the providers for our family, which I discussed before. So before changing the mindsets of the youngsters or the teenagers, we need to change the mindset of their parents.
Interesting. So you're not just talking to the young people out there, but also any parents who have teenagers or maybe early kids in their early 20s. Maybe think about what you're encouraging your kids to do or not do, as the case may be. Well, Salman, I would like to thank you two again for coming on here. Very inspiring to see how much you've accomplished at such a young age, and we're definitely going to be watching your journey as well. Let's go ahead and go back to Shivali.
Wow, how inspiring is that? Take that as you will, but I take that as, in the Amazon world, age is nothing but a number. Paul had been through 2 long careers that spanned decades, and yet into his 50s, he decided to make the shift to e-commerce. Whereas Salman had multiple things that were working against him: his age, and the fact that in his culture, usually kids his age do not work. Yet he didn't let that stop him. I'm equally as excited to introduce you to our next 2 guests. They come from completely different backgrounds. One was in the military for nearly 2 decades, while the other had a very successful job in sales. Let's hear about how and why they both decided to start selling on Amazon.
All right, so next up, we've got a couple people who might be familiar faces to out there, because they've both been on the podcast before. And so, guys, if you want to get their full backstories, make sure to check out Serious Sellers Podcast. I don't have their episode numbers handy here, but just look them up. I didn't plan it, but they're both of their names starts with S. As a matter of fact, Chan has 2 names that start with S. I really want to make S the theme here. But first up, we've got Sharon. Now, Sharon, tell us just like your 1-minute backstory, like what you thought you'd be when you grew up, what you ended up doing for 20 years, what you thought you were going to have to do when you stopped that, and then how you got into e-commerce.
Okay, so 18 years and 5 days old, I joined the United States Navy. Did that for 22 years. If you can imagine, 22 years of having a stable check every 1st and 15th is something you get used to. I did not take advantage of college while I was in there. I was too busy protecting the nation. So when I got out, I thought to become a GameStop manager or a Walmart greeter to supplement the potential pension that I would get from the military. Found a guy who put me onto Amazon, and I've been doing Amazon for about 4 years now. Well, next May will be 4 years. Since then, I've grossed over $1 million and doing well.
Awesome. So you're a couple years of selling on Amazon, million so far. So like, what would you say, like average, like $400,000 to $500,000 gross revenue per year?
Yeah, the first 18 months is all about building. So last year I hit 440,000. This year I'm going to hit 430,000. So I think I'm starting to plateau with this one product that I have, and I think that's all I need.
Okay,
right
awesome,
now.
awesome. And I mean, and that's your full-time gig right now. That's your main income, right? Excellent. All right, now, Shanshan, what about you? What's your 1 minute story? Like, what did you think you were going to be when you graduated college, if you went to college, and what was like your first job, and how did you make that transition to e-commerce?
Sure, yeah. So after I graduated college, I went into sales, tech sales, and I rode that wave at different companies until I moved from Vancouver, Canada, to USA. And I was doing that, but I was obsessed with the idea of passive income. And I knew for a year that I wanted to do e-commerce, and I watched YouTube videos, hundreds of YouTube videos about it before I finally decided on April 4th, when the Surgeon General said, everybody should wear face masks. That's when I was like, my first product is going to be face masks. And
so you started right at the beginning of the pandemic then?
Yes, on April 4th. Thank you, Surgeon General.
Wow. Okay. So that's we have one person here who went from being in the military for years and years, transitioning to e-commerce, and you went from the sales market for tech and going to now, did you start on Amazon, or did you start on another platform?
I actually started on Etsy.
Etsy. Okay. So Etsy. But either way, still e-commerce, still online marketplace. But you could see they have ended up kind of almost in the same boat here as far as what they're doing now, coming from completely different educational backgrounds. As Sharon said, he didn't even attend university or college. Shanshan did, and completely different, and ending up in the same space. Now, we just mentioned Etsy with Shanshan here. Sharon, have you tried out any other marketplaces yourself?
Yeah, this year I actually branched out, started to diversify. Around May, I started out with Shopify, and just September I opened up on Walmart. So I'm on my own website, and I'm in Walmart right now.
Okay. And Shanshan, what about you? Etsy, Amazon, any other marketplaces for you?
I also have Poshmark, Shopify, and increasing rapidly is Walmart. They just accepted me into their Walmart fulfillment program, which is like Amazon FBA. And after joining that program, my sales immediately doubled. So Sharon, definitely join their program.
All right. We're gonna have to check that out. Now, both of you, I believe, this is like your main income now. And it's pretty, you don't have to be a 8-figure seller to be able to have e-commerce as your main income. But Sharon, for you, this is probably a big change from being a Walmart greeter, as you thought you were going to have to be when you got out of the military. What are some things that you've been able to do over the last year or two financially that you probably would not have been able to do had you gone on your original, what you thought was going to be your career path?
That's a good question. Of course, having a wife and kids, telling your family that you're going to start a business is a big jump, and that you need $15,000 to start it. From the $30,000 that I had saved up for a house is a shock to the plan. And my wife finally agreed, over a week or two of agreeing to let me go this way. She finally let me do it. So at the beginning of year 3 is when I first started to notice that I can comfortably take out a set amount of salary for myself. And my first year salary, I went out and I just bought her a brand new car cash as a thank you gift. A 21 Toyota Camry. That's what she wanted. Thank God it wasn't something bigger than that.
Very nice.
And I've never heard of anybody in my family being able to pay outright in full a brand new car. And I think that was a good thank you gift to her, is to, thank you for letting me go through my passion to provide for this family.
I love it. Now, Shanshan, what you a lot of your products are, you do face masks. I know you do like socks and different things like that. If you were to estimate how many units you have sold, not dollars, but how many units you have sold, like how many face masks total, how many pairs of socks, what are we talking about? Like 10,000 more, what less, 100,000?
My guess would probably be 20,000.
About 20,000. Okay. Tell me, how does it feel to know that there are tens of thousands of people walking around out there using a product that you yourself imagined and created?
It feels amazing, especially since it's face mask. And I joke, and this is completely a joke, high respect to the first responders. But my boyfriend's a doctor, and I joke that maybe I have also saved lives. Because if I put 10,000 masks on people, that could have saved their life.
Yeah.
There you go. And then it's amazing. I don't know if or Sharon, I know what Sharon's product is. I don't think it's something that you would actually see walking down the street, but I don't know if this has happened to you, Shanshan, but it wasn't my product. I was just working for a company. This is like 6-7 years ago. And it was a cell phone case. And these guys were doing ridiculous numbers. They were selling like every day, like 1,000 cell phone cases a day, more than 1,000 cell phone cases a day. And so let me tell you, the first time I was in I'll never forget. I was in a post office and I was just looking, and you know how people are in lines in post offices, they're looking on their phones, right? I'm like, oh my goodness, that's our phone case. Like, and me personally, I was the logistics guy at the time. Like in those days, I didn't know anything about Amazon except how to send stuff to FBA and put stickers on it. But I was like, I guarantee that my hands were on that case because I either packaged it to go to FBA or I packaged it as a fulfilled by merchant order. And there's a person who went out and bought that product and they're using it. Like I even went up to, I was like, hey, where'd you get that product? Like Amazon's like, yep, I knew that. but guys, like, can you imagine if that ever happened? Like if you see someone with your socks just walking down the street or your mask, Shanshan, like how that would make you feel?
That I would feel exactly like you because I have also touched all of them. Like I think I've packed 20,000 products myself with my bare hands. So yeah, that's it's really cool, and I hope to grow it more and get it into the hands of more people.
Now back to Sharon. There are many who might have been in your military boots, as you were like 3 years ago, who's like, man, I don't, maybe they didn't think they were going to be a GameStop manager or Walmart greeter, but they might be unsure. They might not even have a plan of what they're going to do when they get out. So it's not to say that I'm sure you're not going to say, oh, every single veteran out there needs to consider selling on Amazon. But what would you tell other veterans out there or people who are about to get out of the military? What would you tell them to encourage them to maybe give selling on e-commerce a try? Like why would you suggest doing that?
Oh, okay. Well, for starters, it is very easy to start up an e-commerce business when you have a job. When you have a job that's paying for all your bills, and you don't have to worry about the risk you take with ads or the risk you take with this one product as much as somebody who doesn't have a job. So I always encourage my fellow Chiefs veterans that your last year or two before you get out, you're already developing a plan to succeed after the military. Why not consider passive income while you're considering your path? And passive income, as Shansan said, is great, man. It's really great. And while you have a job, you can devote some of your time. It's not time consuming as much, right? It's not as much time consuming as a 10-hour, 12-hour day at a job, right? Devote 4 or 5 hours when you get home from the military, build your business. And by the time you get out, if this is something that you want to create as your primary source of income, go for it. The risks are minute when you have a stable job. Mm-hmm. So give it a try.
Okay. And then you, Shanshan, you actually come from what some people would consider, or not some people, most people would consider like, hey, this is a pretty, stable job. I think you had like a 6-figure income back in the day in the sales industry. But why would you encourage people then to still like, hey, if you're under what circumstances would you consider somebody, hey, you might want to, check out selling online, even though you quote unquote made it in the corporate world? What kind of people would you suggest to consider selling online?
So one of my favorite quotes is from Warren Buffett. He said, "Try to find your form of play career," and I love that because I think Sharon's right. Don't quit your job. But one of the things, side hustles that you can do after work is e-commerce. It's perfect for that. And once it grows big enough, you can wake up every day and be excited. There were times in the past when I felt like I lived for the weekend. Like I just worked Monday to Friday, and then finally the weekend was here, and I was so happy. But now every day feels like a weekend. So, if you can work after work and start your e-commerce business, you can get to that lifestyle.
I love it. I love it. All right, guys. So here we have another two individuals, completely different educational and life and work backgrounds. Again, ending up in the same similar place, selling hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on different marketplaces online. Anybody can do this, guys. And it doesn't have to be, I need to like quit my day job and just go all in. Oh, I need to like, just get out of the military and just go into Amazon. I mean, people from all walks of life can achieve whatever level of success they're looking to get on Amazon. So here we've got two examples that are crushing it, and it's going to be exciting to see what you guys are going to be doing next year. So thank you again, Sharon and Shan, and we'll reach out to you next year and see where you guys are at.
Thank you. Have a great one.
Thanks, guys.
Can you imagine going from thinking you would have to work as a Walmart greeter to grossing hundreds of thousands of dollars online? If you're in the military or recently retired and not sure what to do with the next chapter of your life, make sure to find Sharon in our Helium 10 members group and ask him for some advice. And for those of you who resonated with Shan, I hope you also recognize that success is relative. You can have a super successful job and still opt to restart. I mean, did it look like Shan regretted making that decision? Absolutely not. And speaking of giving up a successful job, one of our next guests was a top-rated lawyer with a 6-figure salary. But he also gave it up, just for different reasons than Shan. Let's check out her story, as well as listen to the story of someone who immigrated from Africa a few years ago, but now finds herself grossing millions of dollars yearly on Amazon.
These next two guests, they were actually on this show last year. Very, very inspiring stories. I want to bring them back to kind of like catch up with what they've been doing. And also, I know a lot of you might be watching this for the first time and you didn't hear their, original podcast or story. So I want to get back to that. Now, our first guest here, Anne, has a little bit different journey than what you would typically think of somebody getting into e-commerce. Maybe the stereotypical mindset is, hey, there's somebody who is, needs a huge career change because they're getting out of the military, or, maybe they're kind of short on money. They want to make some extra money. But Anne kind of like, quote unquote, made it in the corporate world. She had a big, well-paying job, reached the pinnacle of her profession, if I'm not mistaken. So Anne, can you take us back again and give us your origin story and let us know, why you wanted to kind of leave something behind that maybe other people are trying to achieve?
Hi, Bradley. Yes, I was a corporate lawyer working in London. I worked for the largest law firm in the world, actually California law firm, started over where you guys are. And I worked in oil and gas project finance. And I kind of spent my whole life on that achievement track, go to the best school, get the best grades, get the best job. And then I did that and I was like, oh, this is awful. And I was just working literally 22 hours a day, not sleeping, was getting, tight in the chest from stress. And I saw my friends having families and just having so much stress. And I said, this is really not what I want for my life. And I just made a decision that life was more important to me than achievement, than money. And so I quit it all and moved down to Costa Rica. And long story short, started my Amazon business here a few years after that. And now I get to live a beautiful life, make more than I did at the law firm, and be home every day with my gorgeous little kiddos.
Yeah, that's just great. And like I used to live in Japan, and they used to have this world or this word called salaryman, where you were just like married to the company. You would get there at 7 a.m., leave at 7 p.m., and you strived for
Mm-hmm.
that kind of lifestyle. But me too. I've been in corporate life. I know how stressful it can be. There's a lot of people who don't want that salaryman kind of lifestyle. It's too stressful. They realize that, they have no family life and things like that. Anybody out there, watching this, do you have some kind of stressful job right now that maybe could be considered the pinnacle of success, but you're just not happy? Maybe you're in the same shoes that Anne was, a few years ago. Now, Anne, when you made that decision to leave, your firm and move to Costa Rica, you weren't some college kid rebelling or dropping out of college or something. You were an adult, of course, by that time, but still, I've got to think that it was still there was maybe some drama or something, letting your family know, yeah, I'm giving up this quote unquote dream job and I'm gonna just give it all up and move to Costa Rica. Was there any issue, letting the family know about that?
Ah, yeah, totally. Everyone thought I was bananas. Everyone still kind of thinks I'm bananas. I'm like the hippy dippy chick of the Amazon world, posting Instagram videos of me doing crazy dances and stuff. But yeah, especially lawyers, right? We're very risk averse and, love stability and certainty and the salary. And my friends were all like, they just assumed that I was going to be back. And the people that didn't assume that I was going to be back, it was like, but what if this? What if that? And I said, I'm not jumping off a cliff. I'm just, I'm going to go see how this is. And when people ask me how I did it, I always say the most difficult part of the whole process is making the decision. Like once the decision is made, you figure it out. It's something that Tony Robbins also says is don't get stuck in the tyranny of how. If you're thinking how to do something first, you're going to talk yourself out of it. Have your why, your purpose, the why and the what, and let how, then you figure out the how. So that was kind of what just happened. I was flying by the seat of my pants and, just really with the constant belief that there had to be more to life. And for me, there definitely was. Yes.
Yep. Now let's go ahead and switch gears for a second here. We're going to invite another guest on here, Elizabeth, and she also has been on the podcast. And I love doing these interviews in pairs because I usually have people who have never even met each other virtually nor in person, and they come from completely different, educational backgrounds and work backgrounds and even cultural backgrounds. So, Elizabeth, can you let us know where were you born and raised, and what was your journey to e-commerce like?
So I was born in Nigeria. It's a country in West Africa, and I moved into to the US 6 years ago. Um, and then when I moved to the US, I stayed in Chicago for a year, and it was too cold for me. I told my husband, I'm like, if you want a happy wife, then we gotta leave this city because it was just too cold for me. So when I moved over to Vegas, the job opportunity I was getting wasn't something that I really wanted to go into, and the money they were offering me to was like a fraction of what I'm already earning in Chicago. And 2 months down, looking for a job, I realized that I was pregnant. So I was like, you know what? Does it even make sense for me to look for a job? And then in the next 3, 4 months, I'm taking maternity leave. And one day, my husband is a nurse. He came back and he was like, you know what? Why don't you go watch so and so video on YouTube about how to sell on Amazon? I was like, okay, yeah, why not? I don't have anything doing. And then it basically took me like a month watching free Amazon videos. I joined the Helium 10 um, Facebook group. That's where I met Sharon. I saw she was a Nigerian, and I saw like I think 3 other Nigerian individuals on that platform. So we formed like this little Facebook group, and then we started teaching each other the little that we learned. So my first product was actually a $500 phone case. I know, the worst product to sell ever. But I was just so lucky that everything just fell in place for me, because at the point where I ordered those phone cases was when the phone cases just got launched. So there wasn't too much competition per se. in that niche. So I was able to still sell and make a little bit of money, but later on I realized, oh, this is not the niche for me. So I moved into two, three different niches before I found, my passion. And after that point, it's been like smooth sailing. Yeah, not yeah, well, I wouldn't call it smooth sailing all the way, but at least I've seen a lot of success that kept validating that, okay, me going down this path is something that I actually think I was born to do, kind of, if that makes sense. Yeah.
All right, now switching back to Anne. I know you're a mother of two. It's very important to you, and you're very good at always recognizing your blessings. So, just out of curiosity, what are your main like hashtag blessed moments that you can say has come from that decision you made a while back to go ahead and move to Costa Rica and then become an online entrepreneur? Like, is it the work-life balance? Is it about your family life? What are the biggest blessings that you've received from this career path that you've chosen?
Well, I mean, really, I would say the biggest blessing is my family life. I mean, my kids think I'm a stay-at-home mom because I do the work when they're not around. So I make them breakfast every morning. I take them to school. I pick them up. I make them dinner every night. And I'm so, so grateful for that because I know it's a privilege, and I missed being with my mom. She was a working mom growing up. So really just being able to be with them and then having the freedom to travel both by myself and with my kids, it's awesome. You just bring your laptop and you can do anything. And, in contrast to being in the corporate world, like I would go to lawyers' conferences, I mean, usually within my own firm. And man, they're really boring. And also everyone is miserable. I mean, it's mostly a bunch of old white dudes, but everyone who's there is kind of miserable. And the talk is around like, who's billed the most hours, like who has the worst clients, like basically a competition of whose life sucks the most. And it's so different in e-commerce. I was just at an event and, Bradley and I met at an event. We were just talking about this. When Bradley and I met, it was in an after party of an Amazon event. And Bradley was like busting some dance moves. And I was like, hang on, who's this guy? We need to be friends. And, when you're successful in e-commerce, I think you're really successful in life, and everybody, it's such a different environment. Everybody wants to help each other. Everybody wants to give tips because, you don't want to be lonely at the top. You want all your friends to be doing as well as you are so you can all do fun, epic things. And, like I was just saying to Bradley, my 40th birthday is next month and we're going to Mexico. And I just decided randomly like 2 months ago, we should do something. I messaged a few of my friends saying, hey, what do you guys think about going to Mexico for a week in January? Literally, the whole thing was planned in 2 days. Every single one of the 13 people that I asked said yes. And everybody has kids too, and that's just because they can be like, okay, let's go do it. And Elizabeth, girl, I'm from Chicago, so I know how you feel about the cold. I turned 18 and left and never looked back. I only applied to university in California and in the South. I was like, no more snow for me.
All right, what about you, Elizabeth? What do you think are some of your biggest blessings that have come from you choosing to become an online entrepreneur as opposed to maybe the path that you were going down?
Yeah, definitely. It's also the work-life balance. Having to be home with my daughters, watch them grow, never miss any kind of milestones. You know what I mean? So that has been awesome. This year, myself and my family, we've been traveling a lot, giving us that opportunity to bond and grow as a family, and just to have that kind of passive income lifestyle that I've always thought was never possible because just looking around, the people that I was used to seeing always stressing about work and not being able to balance those two aspects of their lives, and just realizing that this is possible for me, and it's just been mind-blowing, and I'm so grateful for that.
That's awesome. Now, Anne, last couple of questions for you. First of all, we're right here at the end of 2021. You probably don't have your numbers necessarily right there, your exact numbers right there in front of you, but if you were to estimate what was your gross revenue here in 2021, how much was it? And then the second question would be, hey, let's say there's somebody out there that's watching this program right now, and they are Ann Ferris from 6 years ago when you were, stressing out over a corporate job, even though you're making a lot of money. Like, what would be your advice to somebody who might not be feeling completely satisfied, even though they kind of quote unquote made it out there?
My sales would be like 1.8 to 2 million for the year on Amazon. I also sell off Amazon, and that's growing this year too. And my biggest piece of advice, if you're thinking about doing this, is, tell yourself and really know deep down that you can, make a vision board, put up your dreams and really understand why you're doing this, because when you start, there will be hurdles. It's not super easy. But if you know why you're doing it, if you believe in the future that you've dreamed up in your head, you will overcome all of those hurdles. And, just really dream big, and anything is possible.
I love it. Love it. And let's go back to Elizabeth now. Same questions for you. End of 2021, about how much is your gross revenue going to end up being? And then what words of advice would you give to somebody who is in your shoes, maybe not sure what direction to go in life, and maybe just starting a family?
Okay. So my estimated revenue for this year is about $5 million. Anything that has to do with fear, business opportunity, you just have it doesn't go together. You know what I mean? Risk, yes, but that fear, doubting yourself, self-doubt is something that you have to take out of the equation totally, just because you can, right? And that was the biggest hurdle for me. And I would have never thought 5 years ago that I would be out here designing products, like really designing products, having something in my mind, putting it out there, people loving and buying something that was just, in my head. Like, to me, it's like, yeah, to me, that's like the magic of it all. Cause I'm always nervous putting out something. And I always tell my husband, I'm like, do you think someone will pay so and so for this? You'd be like, when have you ever doubted yourself? Why do you want to start now? So just always put that good vibe, good energy out there. Don't doubt yourself. If you fail, you get up, and just keep moving. And definitely it's worth it. I've been doing this for only 3 years, and it's just I can't even still believe that this year I grossed $5 million. Like, it's crazy.
This is so great. To the both of you, I thank you so much. I do think that there are a lot of people out there who are watching this who might hopefully be inspired by what you're saying, because you two were the situations that you were in before, even though they're completely different. I'm sure there are people out there watching this right now who right now might be in the same shoes that y'all were in a few years ago. So hopefully they're inspired by this and want to at least look into taking action about maybe going down the paths that you guys have done and had so much success. So thank you again for coming on here. If we do this again in 2022, I'd love to reach out to you and see where you guys are at then. So thanks a lot again.
Bye. Thanks, Bradley. Thanks, Elizabeth.
So, how many of you could relate to either Anne or Elizabeth? You have what many would consider to be a successful job, but you're not happy due to your work-life balance. Perhaps you're between jobs like Elizabeth was and not sure what path to take as a new mother. Both Anne and Elizabeth come from different backgrounds, but now are both happy mothers with a great work-life balance, grossing millions of dollars on Amazon. Maybe this could be your life story in the near future. However, not everyone we're interviewing today is making millions like them. A, we don't want to give you the impression that if you sell on Amazon, you're guaranteed this kind of success. B, everyone's definition of what they deem to be success is different. So don't let social media or YouTube videos dictate what you consider to be financial success. For some, maybe success is like Anne and Elizabeth and grossing millions of dollars on Amazon. But for others, perhaps success is being able to sell hundreds of thousands of dollars like Sean and Shron. It could also be that maybe all you want is a little extra spending money each month. You and you alone should decide what success looks like for you. One thing that everyone has had in common so far, other than their determination and great work ethic, is that they had specific education and tools necessary in order to help them succeed. Now, we're not talking about some advanced college degree education, nor are we talking about some special tools that no one can afford. No, we're talking about Helium 10. Helium 10 provides the best A to Z course on how to sell on Amazon out there, and also gives you some advanced tools that you need to help you in any step of your Amazon journey. I'm going to throw up a link on the screen now, and if you would like to have the same exact tools that have helped everyone we've talked to today so far get success, please go to that link for more information. We are about to get into the next interviews now, but afterwards, I'll give you more details on the special end of the year offer that we're having for those of you that are just joining the Helium 10 family. It's a really great deal that will expire on New Year's Eve. Now for our next two guests, one who was on last year's Average Joe webinar, and we're going to find out today about how much he scaled up in the last year. And the other you might be meeting for the first time, but has a very inspiring story and actually now has sales that would be the envy of almost anyone selling on Amazon.
All right, so guys, we know that in the Amazon world, there's no guaranteed success, and we here at Helium 10 don't want to try and make it seem like, hey, all you got to do is launch a product and you're going to be a gazillion billionaire on Amazon. There's a lot of people who fail on Amazon, and some they do things the right way and they fail. We like to keep it real here, but at the same time, there's a lot of people out there that have massive success. And here in this webinar, we've been showing you different people who have different levels of success. We're going to go to the opposite end of the spectrum now and talk about those who have had some incredible success out there. There's the other end. Just because we don't have them on here, I tried to get a couple people on here who I love their story because they're not giving up, but they failed on one person failed on their first product. It actually wasn't a failure, but they decided that they didn't want to sell on Amazon because too many other things were happening. So they completely stopped it even after they had made a bunch of money. But guess what? They didn't give up. They're about to launch their second product sometime in the next few months. Another person has been selling for about a year and hasn't made a profit yet. I'm going to keep it real. I'm not going to try and say everybody makes a profit on Amazon. They've been selling for a year, haven't made a profit. But they decide, you know what? I'm not going to give up. I'm going to try and work on making this first product profitable. And now they're searching for their second product. So I think it's important to hear those stories because we all have to keep a realistic idea about what Amazon is. Unfortunately, I couldn't bring them on the show, but guys, know that what you're about to hear now from these two gentlemen is not the norm. But I want to show you what exactly is possible for an average Joe or average Sally out there on Amazon. So we've got Ryan here. First of all, Ryan, how's it going?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Now, Ryan, has been on our podcast a couple times before, but, why is he an average Joe? Well, he's, he doesn't have a course to sell you, or he doesn't have a big training program or software or anything. He's just a regular guy. As a matter of fact, but he's anything but a regular guy in Amazon, and you're going to find out why. Now, Ryan, what's your what's your background as far as like your education and what your first job was, and then how you got into Amazon?
Sure. Yeah, I went to Pepperdine, graduated 2012 with a degree in international business. Right after graduation, I went to work for my stepdad's company. He had a vacancy. His managers in Juneau, Alaska quit. So I decided, hey, that sounds like a crazy experience, but I could learn something about management. So I committed to 1 year, and I went up there to Juneau for that 1 year, exactly 365 days, and I came back home. And during that time when I was up there, I kind of...
You lasted a full year in Alaska.
It was...
That's more than I would have lasted.
a little crazy. We had some crazy experiences, just employee issues, and like people, I had to start from scratch, hiring everyone from scratch a couple of times. So it was nuts, but I can go into that another day. But when I was up there, had a lot of downtime in the night. So I kind of learned about Alibaba and buying products and importing them. And then it was actually like white label, which I ended up getting in trouble the next year. So don't recommend that. And then after that, eventually I got through the 3-letter course. I'm blanking on the name of it, but a lot of people, tens of thousands of people have gone through this course. And that's where I kind of started the private label journey. And I guess that would be 2016 when I started really with private label. So.
All right. Now, fast forward to, we're here right at the end of 2021. I know you have different partnerships and everything. You have some that are your own products throughout all your different marketplaces. What's your overall gross sales going to end up being, you think, this year in 2021?
I'd say 10 million.
$10 million, guys, from somebody who just a few years ago was freezing his butt off in Alaska, wondering like, is this life all that life wanted to give me? Sure, he had a business degree, but it's not like in the Pepperdine business program they teach you about how to sell on Amazon. So it's not like he came in with this special knowledge, and he was able to scale up like that. Now we've also got Eugene here. Eugene, his, depending on when you're listening to this, his podcast episode, his very first podcast episode with us might be live right now. So make sure to go check out the Serious Sellers podcast to see if it's there. You can get his full backstory. But Eugene, same questions to you. Like, what did you study in college, if you went to college, and what was like your main jobs originally, and then how did you transition to e-commerce?
Sure. I graduated from both Penn State and Muhlenberg College, finance and econ background. Right after college, kind of went into a insurance role, more in the risk management underwriter side. Very exciting. And then during that time,
about as exciting as being in Alaska, I would say.
That's more exciting for sure. At that time, then my cousin was also started something, just a small eBay business, and that at that time, that's when I kind of joined up and just like helped him out a little bit, and we started in the basement, and that was no Amazon yet. That was just strictly eBay. And then the minute in 2008 is when we started Amazon. In the beginning of the year, we signed up, and pretty much it took off from there. I mean, we saw the potential from eBay kind of carried us. That allowed us to bootstrap and just start Amazon, and it just took off from there.
Okay, and then now fast forward, a few years, 2021. What's your estimated gross sales across all platforms going to be?
Projected right now, obviously there's still a whole month left ahead of us, so I have a pretty big window, probably 18 to 20 million in that range.
Wow, so another 8-figure seller here. Now, both of you sell on Walmart. Ryan, what's your estimated Walmart sales? I know you told us your whole pie right there, but what's the piece of the pie that's Walmart this year going to be for you?
Yeah, it's between 600 and 700,000.
Okay, so almost on the cusp of 7-figure Walmart sellers. Well, how about you, Eugene? I know you're pretty big on Walmart as well.
Walmart should be 2.5 to 3 million this year.
Oh, so you are a 7-figure seller on Walmart. So guys, it's not all about Amazon. E-commerce is a variety of marketplaces. Amazon definitely is the beast, and that's where you're going to get most of your sales from. But here's two individuals you saw, they don't have necessarily some educational background or some work background that is like, okay, this is a prerequisite to be an Amazon seller, but they were able to transition and go to e-commerce. And I'm assuming this is your full-time gigs, obviously, at those numbers, right? You guys you're not still making trips up to Alaska, or you're not still freelancing as a bookkeeper for somebody or anything, right? Now, again, we don't want to be like those ads you see out there where people have Lamborghinis and they say, this is, take my course and this is exactly how you're going to make 20 million, you're going to make 10 million or something like that. We like to keep it real, but it is possible. And now, Ryan, if you had to tie your success down to one thing, or if you had one advice to give to people about why, how come you have been so successful out there, what do you think has helped you along the way? I don't know if it's a mindset thing or it's just some mantra you live by, or just like, hey, I use all the data. I mean, whatever it is, what has helped you, Ryan, to get to this level where maybe other people haven't?
I think it's just keeping with it, consistency, staying with it every single day, and also joining masterminds, because I've been in several different masterminds. Most of them are paid, and that, I notice a big difference between the free ones and the paid ones, and you can gain a lot of really good knowledge from the collective people in the group. So that was definitely a huge advantage.
Okay, excellent. And what about you, Eugene? What one or two things you think have really, set it apart for you?
I think the biggest thing is having a really robust team. I mean, that's what kept us in business since 2008. Is that team took a while to develop, but we have experts in almost every different area. Of course, that you're giving up some profits to have a very robust team, but that allows you to manage the stress that Amazon sellers have. It gets pretty intense at times, especially when like suspensions or violations and all these takedown things happen. But yeah, really, I think that's a secret recipe for us, is just having a very, really awesome team that I love, and they take care of us.
Okay. Now, one other question I want to have for each of you is sometimes our parents have different ideas for us when we're growing up, or sometimes it's hard to tell family like, yeah, I'm about to sell on Amazon. Like for us, it's all like normal. Like, of course, that's a normal thing. But like, we got to remember that, people out there like, what? Sell on Amazon? You're supposed to be a doctor or something like that. Ryan, what did your parents want you to like? Did your parents want you to do that Alaska business? When you grew up, and then was it hard to tell them, hey, I'm gonna do my own thing on Amazon?
Yeah, so that's my stepdad's business. My stepdad and my mom allowed me to really chase whatever dreams I wanted to. So they were happy that I decided to join the family company. And after Alaska, I did stay on with the family company here in Las Vegas at their other location for another 2.5 years. But yeah, January 1st, 2016 is when I stopped working for them and I went full time, stay at home entrepreneur. And that was a little difficult, but they were on board from the beginning. I didn't find out until a couple of years later, like maybe 2019, that my dad actually was really upset that I quit the family business. And because, he's more the old school model where you go to school, get good grades so you can get a good job, so you can work that job for 30, 40 years, save up, live within your means so you can retire and, enjoy life once you're retired kind of thing. So he didn't really understand the whole entrepreneur thing. But I did overcome that because I sold one of my businesses in 2020. It's just a small 6-figure exit, but it was enough to pay off the mortgage, pay off the student loans, and become completely debt free. So ever since then, my dad's been completely supportive and kind of changed his tune on what entrepreneurialism is. Yeah.
What about you, Eugene? What did your parents want from you when you quote unquote grew up? And was it a difficult thing to say, oh yeah, I'm giving everything up and I'm gonna sell on eBay or whatever, however you started?
I grew up with my parents had owned a couple of Chinese restaurants growing up all through my childhood up until I think my early college days. So of course there was pressure on there to take over the business. Was definitely wasn't something I wanted to do, and I guess as soon as I broke that news, yeah, of course they were disappointed, but they quickly sold. So at that point, I had really no choice to like, okay, well, I have to pursue and work the degree and find a real job. But like I said, when I was in a corporate risk management job, but when that eBay opportunity came along, I was so young and like no kids, no family. I had nothing to lose, so it was a very easy jump and transition.
All right, awesome. So, guys, again, I hope this is inspiring to you out there. You saw here. These are typical people, average Joes, as we like to say. Their parents might have had some plan for them. They might have had a plan. They went to school for something else, but they saw the opportunity that selling online had. They took it. They took the steps needed. Joining masterminds, taking courses to be successful on Amazon, and then they made themselves into a success. And you don't hear their parents complaining now that they're making $10-20 million on Amazon. So how much of their journey can you guys follow? That's going to be up to you. But Ryan and Eugene, I think you're inspiring a lot of people out there. It's really amazing to see what you've accomplished. And if we do this again at the end of next year, it'd be great to see where you guys ended up in 2022.
What another inspiring story. How many of you out there might have some pressure to take up the family business? These two might have initially upset their family with their career choice, but I don't think any family members of Ryan nor Eugene are upset at them grossing 8 figures a year online. Now, before our next guest, who might potentially end up being your favorite guest of this webinar, first, let me tell you about the special that we are offering. If you go to the link you see on the screen now, you're going to get full access to Helium 10 for 50% off regular price for 2 months. That means for month 1 and 2, you are only going to pay $49.50 per month. What that will give you is the full access to the Freedom Ticket training program, which if you go to freedomticket.com now, will cost you $997 by itself to purchase. This is the top training program out there for Amazon sellers and has over 50 hours of instruction given by Amazon and e-commerce experts on the entire process from A to Z on how to sell on Amazon. You'll also get full access to Helium 10, which every year is voted by Seller Poll as the #1 set of tools for Amazon sellers. It contains over 30 different tools that will help you find, research, market, track, and scale products on Amazon. If you're watching this before the end of 2021, we will have some extra bonuses for you as well. If you sign up before midnight on New Year's, you will get 3 exclusive live group training sessions with Bradley and myself. These will be in smaller groups via Zoom, and we will answer any and all of your questions on how to get started or scale up on Amazon, as well as share some of our latest tactics with you. In addition, you will get exclusive early access to our 2022 Helium 10 social event at the Prosper Show in Las Vegas. Now, if you're watching this in 2022 sometime on a replay, don't worry. You can still go to the link below and take advantage of the special 2 months of 50% off. But only those who take advantage of this deal before midnight, January 1st, qualify for the other bonuses. Now, on to the last bonus interview of the day. We showed you earlier that no matter what age you are, you can still use Amazon to start making money online. If you still aren't convinced that it doesn't matter your age, then this last guest might change your mind.
All right, guys. So we've got a treat for you. We've talked about how, at any age is never too early to start, getting into the Amazon world. Well, we've got probably the biggest, I don't know what I would call this, like the biggest proof of this ever. I've got here Mohammed you're in the UK, right, Mohammed?
Yeah,
And how old are you?
8.
Now, this is it's really interesting story. So, like, what grade are you in school?
Year 3?
Year 3, so 3rd grade. Okay. Now, you are doing KDP on Amazon, or what's your experience with Amazon?
Like KDP and Helium 10 and stuff.
So you use Helium 10 for KDP. That's awesome. We're definitely going to find out how you use Helium 10. But like, how did you first, like, does, one of your parents make books on KDP, or how did you even find out about KDP?
Yeah, my mom kind of helps me with it a bit.
So does your mom also make books and things like that for KDP?
Yeah.
Okay. So what kind of books have you made on KDP, or have you already made books on KDP?
Yeah, I've made quite a few, and I've just been interested in the way of making books, and it's been like a good experience, like getting to try it out.
Now, I'm assuming that your friends from school in year 3, you're probably the only one doing KDP on Amazon, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Have you ever, do you make any children's books, or are they just books for anybody?
Yeah, they're books for anybody, but mostly I like to make children books and things.
Okay. Now, how did you start using Helium 10? Like how long have you been using Helium 10?
Maybe for a couple of months now.
Okay.
And
What's your
I've just,
favorite
like,
tool?
The Cerebral Search.
Okay. So Cerebral, you like getting the keywords from there?
Yeah.
And now for your books that you and your parents make, are these that only go on the Amazon UK website, or does it go on Amazon US in America too?
They go on a couple other websites, like in different countries and stuff, because they're available to different countries, but just in different prices.
Do you use any other tools in Helium 10 other than Cerebro?
Sometimes, but I like to use Cerebral because it gives me good keywords, and also it gives me extra things to use, and I can export it to Excel easily and use and sort it.
Okay. Wow, you even know how to use Excel. Like when I was 7 and 8 years old, well, actually, I don't even think Microsoft Excel existed back then. But yeah, I definitely was not making books and not using spreadsheets and things like that. So, do you look for like high search volume, or what makes a good keyword for you? Like, what do you really look for when you're in Cerebro?
I look for like which book has the most sales or search volume, so that I can get like good keywords from that exact book.
Okay. So do you use the Chrome extension, like X-Ray and things like that too?
Yeah.
Is there any books that are on Amazon that you helped your parents make, or that you made on your own that we could search for, and maybe we can buy it so we can take a look at your work?
Maybe. I think there's one that's called My Journal of Thoughts, and
Okay.
it just has space to journal your thoughts, and it's just lines, and I've done like a nice book cover.
How do you make like a like a book cover? Do you like draw it yourself, or do you use like another service in order to get
I
artwork
use
for
like
it?
different softwares to do it, like Photoshop and Canva.
So you know how to use Photoshop and Canva too.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So you use Helium 10, Photoshop, Canva. This is great. Now, how much time a week are you spending on it? It's just like something you do for fun sometimes, or like every day you do a little bit?
Just for fun, a couple of times in the day.
Your books, are they like for free, or do they cost money to buy?
They cost money.
So then, I'm assuming it's your parents' account you're using. Do they give you some allowance, or do they give you some money from the books that you do, or do they keep it all for themselves?
Yeah, they give me the money that I earn.
Now, with the money you've earned, what kind of things do you buy?
I buy different like sweets, and I also like to buy different stationery supplies.
Do you ever want to do other things on Amazon? Like, have you heard about like, how you can like make products and sell on Amazon, or are you just happy like making the books for KDP?
Yeah, yeah, my dad does like different products as well.
Okay, so like maybe one day you want to learn how to do that part of it too?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you have to say? Like maybe there's somebody else who's like 7, 8, 9 years old out there. Is KDP something you would suggest doing? Like hey, you should give it a try. Or what would you say?
I would say like to just take it easy and do a couple of like I do a couple of like books a day, so I make one whole book and then maybe publish it the next day or so. So I would definitely give them that advice to like do one book a day and then post and then publish it the next.
One book a day. My goodness, that's a lot. That's a lot of work. How many books total do you think you've made then?
10 to 50. A lot. 10
Wow.
to 50.
That is a lot. That is a lot. Um, all right. Well, it's great to meet you, and I hope to meet you in person one day. I think you might be the youngest user of Helium 10 that I know, and possibly the youngest. We can consider Amazon seller, but you are definitely proof that you don't have to be any certain age to get started on Amazon. So Mohammed, thank you so much for joining us, and I wish you the most of success in your Amazon journey.
Thanks.
Now, if that wasn't the cutest interview ever, let's recap what we learned today. Today, we had people of different ages, different educational backgrounds, different ethnicities, different career backgrounds, and more. Some had obstacles that might stop many people, but they decided to make sure not to let that stop them. And they have now all found their own level of success on Amazon. Did you relate to any of them? Have you been holding back starting your e-commerce or entrepreneurial journey due to obstacles you thought you couldn't overcome? Hopefully, our guests today have shown you that you do not need to be an e-commerce superstar in order to gain success on Amazon. All of them might have started out as average Joes and Sallys, but now they are anything but average since they are achieving their dreams thanks to overcoming their obstacles and crushing it in their Amazon journey. Our goal is that hopefully you will be our next success story that we can feature on a webinar like this next year. If you're ready to start selling on Amazon, don't forget to take advantage of this special offer that we have on the page linked below. We thank you for attending and wish you the best of luck in your Amazon journey.